We good, Grant?
I'll let you know in a second. I'm gonna bring it up.
Yeah, I guess he was taking
Thanks,
pictures.
Lois.
You're welcome.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yep, going. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order then. Jimmy, we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming.
Information.
Okay. All right. Yeah, got it. Okay, first up, we have a guest this evening, Wesley Goldsmith from Aquatic Control, and Robin Alexander brought him, so I want to introduce Wesley, and he's going to give us a fish survey report from Aquatic Control. That's the company we had hired to do our fish study. With that, Wesley, go ahead, please. Can everybody see that, or if he turns it low, is that better? Okay. Jimmy, if you want, there's an open seat right over here if you want, if that helps you.
All right, so yeah, I'm Wes Goldsmith. I'm our fish management specialist at Aquatic Control. I was actually on site. We had 4 guys out here this past fall to do your fish survey, and basically what I have here is just an overview of those results. That way, if you guys have any questions, we can bring those up now, and at the end, we go through our recommendations a little bit and explain a little bit how we come up with those. And so, if you have any questions, feel free. So first, just the objectives, and a lot of this stuff, if you've already read the report, a lot of it's just taken from the report, and then I'm gonna, expand on it a little bit, and we can, do the questions. But if you haven't, this will be a really good overview of, what we sent out. So basically, we're just trying to look at a big picture, what's going on in the lake. We do some water quality stuff, which is, at the beginning of our report, which we'll get to. But the biggest portion is, the fish community and all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to look at a big picture and take it all in and then give our recommendations on, how to make improvements, from that data that we find. So methods, we were out here October 10th. Like I said, we collect water sample, we take one from the surface and from the bottom, and then we electrofish a portion. We don't do the entire shoreline because we'd be out here from sun up to sundown and another day after that probably. So we kind of pick, and I'll show you where exactly we did shock, which sections. I think we shocked for 2 hours, 2 hours and 30 minutes, something along those lines. And so basically the way that works is we bring our electrofishing boat and we come around those sections of the shoreline, and I'll have another biologist up front in the boat. It's run off a generator and a specialized box that puts the electricity into the water. It temporarily stuns the fish and they kind of roll over for a second, and the netter will net those up as fast as he can. Then we have a big tub with an aerator in the middle of the boat. We put them in there and we'll go for 10-15 minutes, and then we'll stop. And on these big lakes, we actually hand our fish over to another boat, and then they'll be the ones that will process. So we measure, weigh, and then they go back into the lake unharmed, essentially, and then we move on. So here's the electrofishing areas. Like I said, we can't do the whole shoreline. We wanted to do, down by the dam, we wanted to do, way on the upper end, do the backs of some of these coves, and also do, some main lake stuff. We're trying to find, different habitat types throughout the lake the best we can. Just for being on site for one evening, we do the best we can to kind of hit different areas of the lake. And here's your treatment zones. Part of this report, and I think something that's been going on out here a lot for a while is, we obviously treat the lake out here as well. I'm not involved personally with that. I work with the guys that do that, and I know, a little bit what goes on out here. So that was obviously, part of this report was to encompass that as well. So what you see here, the blue, which is essentially the entire shoreline except a couple areas, are areas that are treated all the time. And I think every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever kind of program you guys are on. And then the red areas are zones that are essentially very, very rarely treated. And the only time that they are treated are when they get topped out in vegetation and really start to cause issues. And then I think the board has to say, all right, finally we need to go ahead and treat this area. It's very rare, from my understanding, that these red areas are treated. Now they are offshore, and if you guys, I think down here, gets a lot of vegetation. And then these other ones, from what I'm told, do grow some vegetation, but they're out deeper offshore a little bit and they don't cause as many problems. The dam, I think, used to be treated years back, and that's been removed to allow some habitat areas. We caught a lot of fish. Well, I'm not sure how to go back. I don't want to scoot up, but you'll notice one of our electrofishing zones was along here. We started about halfway through the dam and went around there, and there was a lot of vegetation. That's where we caught the most fish throughout the whole lake, was around that vegetation, which isn't a surprise. That's where the habitat is. And then there are also down here, there's a couple areas that don't have docks, so I think those were in years back were also removed to allow, a little bit more habitat. But as you can see, there's a lot of docks out here. It's definitely a tough situation to try to, at this point, to remove any more, you basically have to go to that dock owner and say, can we skip your dock? And so that's not up to us. That's ultimately up to you guys to decide that kind of stuff. But anyways, we'll keep going through the data. So water quality, everything looked really good here. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot to say. For the fall, you had oxygen all the way down. We like to see oxygen above 5 parts per million, is where fish are able to hang out. Anything lower than that, they're typically not going to venture down there. So you had oxygen really deep down to 30 feet. And that, 30, 33 feet, which is great. Temperature was, so basically the lake had already finished turning over by the time we got out here, which is pretty typical for our fall surveys. Not too much else to say. Everything else fell right in our ideal range as far as all the indices that we did, so that was great. Just kind of a quick overview of what species we caught. There's, what do we have? There's like 13 or so, something along those lines. So that's really, that's a really diverse lake compared to a lot of other places that we do. Couple quick notes: the bass and the bluegill, we actually caught the same amount of bluegill as we did bass, which is not exactly what you want to see. Your bass are a very big predator, and your bluegill are their main food source typically, and so they have to eat several bluegill or other fish to grow at all. So when you find a 1-to-1 ratio, that's the first kind of red flag that goes up, that we're really paying attention to. Smallmouth bass, we did catch one of those, and I think those have been just brought in from other places that guys have potentially put in. I didn't think I saw any in the stocking records that I received any big smallmouth stockings or anything. So that was kind of cool, and it was like 3.5 pound fish, which was nice. But another, big note was very predator heavy, and then just the undesirable species. The undesirable species, common carp, yellow bullhead, you can see are way up this list. We didn't catch very many, which is a good sign. So that was good to see. And then as far as being predator heavy versus, the prey, which is what they need to eat, we found 9 different predators and, still found the bluegill the same number as the bass. So when you add all your predators up versus the fish that they can eat, we found more predators essentially than we did prey, which is not what you're looking for as far as growing, high quality fish that are growing quickly. So the bluegill, you can see kind of a slow decline as they get bigger, and that's just because, the longer they're out there, the more predators that are out there, they're going to eventually get picked off. Their relative weights, so relative weight I'll explain because we'll talk about that with the bass here in a second too. That's basically an indice that they come up a long time ago. It's an equation where you put, and they have this for bass, bluegill, all kinds of different species. We run it on the bass and the bluegill because those are the 2 mainstays that we see that tell the story of the whole lake. So especially the largemouth. So we'll talk about that. But what that is it's an equation. So when you take the one I always use is a 14-inch bass should weigh 1.5 pounds. And so when you put that equation in there, if you catch a 14-inch bass and it weighs 1.75 pounds, you're going to have a relative weight that's 130 or so. It's a percentage. So what you're looking at here is a percentage. Now, if you catch a largemouth bass that's 1 pound, its relative weight is way down here, which is basically telling you that it's not finding enough food to keep its weight up. And it's not a growth indice, but when you look at it, in that moment, they're obviously not growing very well if they're drastically underweight. So that's what these graphs are. We've highlighted the 90 and 100% relative weight. That's where we like to see fish fall. Anything under than that is less than ideal. Anything over 100 is doing, really well. So bluegill are basically all of them fell under those lines. Now we did aging as part of this survey, excuse me, and basically how that works is we would take a portion, a handful of scales off the side of the fish, and take those, and the fish is still released, unharmed, and then we take those scales back to the lab through the winter time, and we put them under a microscope, and we actually press them onto a slide, and then we look at them under a microscope, and you're counting the rings essentially like a tree. And so in the wintertime, especially in these northern climates where we're at, their growth slows down through the winter because their metabolism slows down. And so all those little annuli start to press together and they make a big ring, just like you see when you cut down a tree. You can age a tree that way, so you can age a fish the same way. So that's what we did. It's not a surefire thing. It takes some practice. But it definitely gives you some extra clues, and so that's the package that we chose out here. And so our age sampling for bluegill showed the growth to be really good, but we are a little bit skeptical of that because we didn't catch very many bigger fish in these 7 to 8.5 inch range, and we only got to age 2 or 3 of those fish because some of the scales are called a regrowth, so if a scale falls off and is replaced, you can't age that, and it looks a certain way on that scale, so we have to pitch those out. So we're not real sure, not a very big sample size. So largemouth, you can kind of see the same thing. We have a really big year class down here, which is a good thing for the most part, but what we'll talk about is that our largemouth are a little bit overabundant, and so there's a lot of competition out there. There's more mouths to feed than there is food out there, and so we'll end up talking in the recommendations about increasing the harvest a little bit to help that situation. So you'll see that, the relative weights on our smaller individuals that are a lot more abundant are down here. And some of our bigger fish that we caught that are less abundant, which is, typical, some of their relative weights were a lot better and some were still not very good. In a balanced population, you're always going to have some fish that are doing good and some fish that aren't. Some fish just haven't figured out where others do. So really those are kind of the takeaways here. We got a bigger size class moving up, and again, we caught the same number, 178 bass as we did bluegill. The aging data here showed very average growth, which was good to see, and we got a pretty good sample size on those. So the largemouth don't appear to be doing too terribly bad, even though their relative weights aren't exactly where we would want them across the board. Red ear and walleye, I'm not going to go through every species because we caught a lot, and a lot of them we caught in low densities and they're not game fish. But the red ear and walleye are two that you guys have stocked on and off for a little while, so I wanted to highlight those. Excuse me, the red ear, you'll see, and this is again a fairly small sample size. We didn't catch a ton of red ear, but the ones that we did, were huge. I mean, they were very plump and round. Thank you. They're doing, they visually, when we first pulled them out of the water, we could tell that they were doing good. And so basically what this is telling us is our data matched up with what we thought. Where the bluegill, it was kind of back and forth, and that's why, we said we were a little bit skeptical there. And then the walleye, so these averages that we're looking at were averages for age that we could get from the state. The walleye, they didn't have too much of that because there's not as many walleye lakes throughout the state. But what we did have is Brookville Reservoir, which is where the state nets all their walleye to get their brood stock, and that's where they, all the walleye stock throughout the state come from fish out of Brookville. So it's a very well-known walleye fishery that's doing well. So we went ahead and took their data from there, and you'll see, our aging data showed that they're not too far off. Not every lake is going to be set up perfectly for walleye, and so this was promising to me, even though we fell under what Brookville's doing. Brookville's one of the best walleye lakes in the state, so I didn't really expect their growth to match up with Brookville. So the fact that they could kind of level off at similar spots tells me that there is a little, some validity to stock and walleye if that's what a lot of your anglers want to target. I think there's validity there, and that red ear and walleye are, two species that are going to do well enough for anglers to go out there and have some success. Thank you. So harvest is another big one that we talk about a lot. These two ones I put in bold are the only changes. Everything else you guys have in place I felt like was fair and still good. Largemouth, you guys had 4 fish at 13 inches or left. I just bumped it up to 5. Basically just trying to say, we do have a lot of largemouth out here. Most likely bass fishermen are throwing them back. That's just the culture that bass, that's what I grew up. I grew up fishing tournaments. My grandpa from Kentucky would keep every smallmouth, largemouth that he caught, but then when I started fishing tournaments, it was like a sin to do that, But there's a time and a place, and right now your lake has a lot of room for more bass harvest. But we want to focus that on 13 inches and less. We don't want to go out there and start taking out the 3-pounders. We've already invested a lot of, you guys have already invested a lot of your resources as far as, just the forage in your lake and that to create that 3-pound fish. So you don't want anyone taking those bigger fish out, but if we can take these smaller fish out that are very abundant and haven't spent much time in the lake using up those resources, the idea is that we'll leave more resources out there for the fish that are left that are not getting harvested. And then the other one was black and white crappie. you guys may have had it at 10 fish, I'm not sure, but we bumped it up to 15. Crappie can reproduce at a really high rate. They're very cyclical, so they're not gonna reproduce, real well every single year, but when they do hit the right conditions, they have huge year classes. And our surveys don't highlight crappie catch real well, because generally throughout most of the year, they're spending a lot of their time in deeper water. An electrofishing survey is only effective from 4 or 5 feet of water if we're doing really well. So when we do catch crappie, we know there's a pretty good population out there. But as far as harvest goes, you can really harvest a lot of crappie and have very little impact on their overall population. So we wanted to increase that up and let people know that it's okay. Go ahead and take crappie when you catch them. Everything else we left the same for now. We still left walleye at 1 fish. We still left red ear at catch and release. Ideally, we can bump those up in the future if we can, build up a big enough population, because that's why they're out there, especially the walleye. I mean, some guys like to go fish for walleye for sport, but a lot of the allure to a walleye is because they're one of the best tasting fish. So, we hate to stock a bunch of them and then not really let anyone take them, because that's, but for right now, we don't feel that the population, is big enough to just let, if someone would, get on a bunch of them, to take a bunch of them out just yet. So habitat, overall, like we've kind of already talked about with the map, there's not a whole lot of habitat out there other than docks. There's those couple areas that we're not treating that do have, some pretty thick vegetation, but other than that, as the vegetation, comes up, it does get treated, and so, that's common in these kind of lakes where there's docks all the way around it. It's a really hard problem. It's a hard problem to solve, and I understand that. But it's still, our job to give you our best recommendation, and so that's why overall we do think there's, a little less habitat than ideal. And kind of the implications of that, one part is I have their energy cost. And what that means is when you do have a significant amount of habitat, especially your predators, your largemouth bass, they like to sit next to some kind of structure, whether it's vegetation, big fallen trees, and ambush their prey as they come by. Right now we think some of the reason that your relative weights in the bluegill and the bass population are pretty low is because there's not much of that out there. And so when the bass are trying to go hunt down their food, they're just swimming and swimming and swimming and burning a lot of calories until they finally do, chase down something and catch it. Where if they could just sit somewhere and wait for a bluegill or shad or something to swim by, they could shoot out there and get it and kind of go back and rest. And so you can imagine the different energy that they're, those two fish are having. And same on the bluegill and any of your prey, they're instead of having good places to hide, they're constantly, being chased around. So there is, something to that. And the other part is, protection of young of your fish, and that goes for your bass, bluegill, everything out there. With very little habitat, your real small fish, when they hatch after the spawn, they don't really have anywhere to go unless they happen to be down by the dam or in those very few areas where we are leaving some vegetation. So a lot of them get picked off, and so what you see is our largemouth have a pretty good year class coming up, which appears, because we have overabundant largemouth, that happens on a regular occasion. They spawn a lot earlier than the bluegill, and then when the bluegill hatch, which bluegill will spawn several times a year, but there's so many predators out there and they don't have anywhere to hide that our overall bluegill population is still, getting hit pretty hard. And like I said earlier, the habitat that we did come across, the fish, it would, essentially explode out of that vegetation because there's just not tons of it out there right now. So your stocking records, we took a look at this, and again, I put this in here to kind of highlight, we think the walleye and the red ear, if you're going to continue to stock, those are the two species that we think are going to do the best. The red ear are clearly doing very well. The ones that do make it, the ones we caught were over a pound, a few of them. And the walleye, we caught 18, 19-inch walleye. We think they're doing pretty well. The wipers, it's common to stock those. It's a hybrid striped bass, cross between a striper and a white bass. They're pretty common to stock in a shad lake, which you guys do have a fair amount of shad. But we just didn't think these stocking densities and your angler pressure, they're gonna be out there eating shad, which is fine. But you're probably not getting them, gonna end up with high enough densities to where your anglers are seeing that. I would guess not many people are catching those wipers right now. They spend a lot of time out in the middle. They're called a pelagic fish, and so they spend most of their time out in the middle of the lake. They don't really relate to the shoreline or to any structure or anything like that. Where the walleye are, they don't go sit up under a dock like a largemouth will, but they do relate to the shoreline and come up on flats. They're a little bit easier to target for anglers, and we already know from their the little bit of growth data that we have that they're going to do pretty well. So that's kind of where we landed on those. Bluegill and crappie are going to reproduce enough that even though we've said the bluegill is not as high as we think, or as high as we want, it would take a tremendous amount of bluegill to make a dent. So that's why we wanted to stick with those two. So just on to the recommendations. At the top of the list, kind of like we talked about, was doing something like this and talking about the habitat. Excuse me. So yeah, just are there any other areas that we can leave vegetation? And again, I get it. I think this has been looked over already in the past, and so it's ultimately just up to you guys and the private dock owners. If a change is going to be made, it's going to be there. But I put up a couple pictures of and these are very small areas, and I don't want to tell you that just changing these 3 small areas is going to make a huge impact in the lake. And these are also 3 private lot owners that I don't want to stand up here and say, hey, you need to do this. It's I get all that. But these are just examples that you can potentially look a little closer and see if there's any other areas. Or one thing, we thought, are there any fishermen on the lake that would be, they would rather us skip their dock when we come to treat. Not everyone, very few are going to land there, but if there's some fishermen around the lake that would, for the benefit of the fishery, prefer that we don't treat it, that's a small option too. Another thing I wanted to touch on here down at the bottom is kind of the way the nutrient plays out in a lake. So there's a certain amount of nutrients in every body of water. And typically, the older the reservoir, lake, pond, whatever it is, becomes, more nutrients washes in from, runoff, ag runoff, and that kind of stuff. So something is going to utilize that, whether that's vegetation, filamentous algae, which is floating on the surface and gets blown around, or planktonic algae, which can be the nasty blue greens, the regular green algae, which is good for the lake. The planktonic is just the microscopic stuff that makes your water look a little greenish. So my point is, if you leave a little bit more vegetation, however you would come up with that, this is just kind of talking in generality, the more vegetation you leave, the less algae problems you're going to have, just because the vegetation is going to suck more nutrients there. You can look at it as that submerged vegetation is like a big tree, and so a lot of times your grass doesn't grow as well right under a tree because that tree's drawing all the nutrients. So if you can leave more vegetation, you're typically going to have less algae issues, whether it's planktonic or filamentous. Now when we go to places and happens in a small pond or a big lake, whenever that customer says, I don't care what you say, we're going to wipe out all the vegetation, they either end up with a really bad planktonic bloom or a really bad filamentous algae, issue. And so we try, to let people know, there's a balance there. You don't want we don't, even for the fisheries benefit, we don't want weeds around the entire shoreline because that causes its own problems. But I just wanted to put that in there just so you know, there's a little bit of a balance there, and that nutrients is gonna get used by something. And if you take one of those options away, it's gonna go into those other two. Look, so a stocking program. So we, on the stocking plan, or the stocking records we already looked at, you guys were a little bit back and forth, trying some different stuff. I think we should land on, like I've said, walleye and red ear. And what I would recommend is to spend whatever you got, whatever your budget is, which I don't know what that is, or if you have a set budget every year. However that shakes out, I think you would be better off and see more out of your stockings each year if you spent whatever amount you have into one species and put as many as you can into that species. That way you can, instead of diluting it out, try to do, what I'm proposing here is to do walleye one year, and they're gonna be more expensive and that kind of thing than the red ear, so the numbers aren't gonna look even. But I'm just saying, whatever money you have, put it all towards walleye one year, and the next year, whatever money you have, whether it's the same or whatever you have for that year, put it all towards red ear. And so that way you're trying the best of your ability, flood that system with that species, and so then your anglers are gonna, see the benefits of your stockings instead of, diluting them a little bit, and you're not really, flooding the system with one thing, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that's all I have on that. And then recommendations 3 through 10, and I should note, in our report, our recommendations are put from highest priority to lowest. So those are the two things we wanted to touch on and give our opinion on were, the habitat and your stocking, what you've been doing stocking. From 3 through 9, we're all bag limits. So I wasn't gonna, list all those off. Like I said, most of those stayed the same. We had the 2 small changes. Then all the way down at 10, we put install additional structure as far as, artificial structure. And so by the time you get down here to 10, these are a lot of times, just suggestions, things to think about. This picture is something, that we work with. It's a mossback product. That people can hang off their docks or put underneath their docks. And a lot of times they just become more fish attractors, but in your case they are going to attract fish, but just because there is a lack of habitat, anything you put out there is certainly going to get used. And so we kind of put this in here just to say if there's any private lot owners that wanted to put some of these habitats around their area or under their dock, that would benefit the fishery and draw in a lot more fish to their area, and fishing from their shoreline and their dock would, get better. Or if you had, money set aside to work on some of these things and you could agree upon areas, where they could go, you could go that route as well. And so one thing I thought, if you were gonna do it as a group, or if a couple different lot owners were thinking about it, I imagine the downside of something like this would be if you're wanting to swim or pull your boat up and you thought it would be in the way, you could try to put it on the border of your 2 property lines where a lot of times there's a seawall or a trees or something like that where people are very rarely in those areas. And so you could put those, habitats right in that area where it's very, low use. That's, just an idea. And kind of the last 2. Again, we put this in all of our reports. We recommend every 3 years, so that would put us back out here in 2022. And some lakes have us come out every 2 years. Other lakes have us come out every 5. Some lakes, disregard that and have us come out once, and they call us in 30 years, and then they want us to compare the 2 surveys. So we recommend every 3 years, and that's just because we are recommending some changes, and if you do follow those, it's nice to know what's working and what's not. And so if we did go through with the stocking plan in 3 years, we would come again and compare that data to what we found this past fall, and then see, okay, we are seeing some more walleye and they're still growing well, or the red ear we still caught the same number of red ear. It doesn't, appear that the red ear are taken off, or whatever it is, we can make those small adjustments and, try some new stuff. And then the very last one is another common one. If you catch any common carp, yellow bullhead, anything that's undesirable, it's helpful to just go ahead and take those out if you can. But like I said, any of the undesirable stuff we caught was at very low densities, and we don't think they are really causing too many issues. So that's kind of where we're, yeah. So that's what we got. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free.
Does anyone have any questions of Wes while we have him here? Go ahead there in the back.
Did you do any studies that give us any indication about what's going on with snails?
The snails, no, we don't really do any bottom, to do something like that, you would take basically samples from the sediment and then, filter through that. I did a little bit of that kind of stuff in college up at Purdue. But we don't really do that. It's just, it would be more labor and more added to it. But one thing I forgot to mention with the red ear, they're otherwise known as a shell cracker, as some of you probably know. So they eat the snails, and obviously that's why they're doing so well. There's a lot of food out there for them, and there's not a lot of red ear out there right now, and so those red ear are growing extremely fast, and that's, we're not going to be able to say, yeah, your snail density went from this to this, but we do know the more red ear we can get established, the less snails you should have. And seeing those few big red ear that we caught down near the dam was, basically instantly put red ear towards the top of stocking, in my opinion, just because we know that if you can get them established, they're going to do really well. I mean, when you're catching red ear over a pound, those are trophy fish. Those are absolutely trophy fish.
Hey Wes, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
First and foremost, appreciate it. You've obviously got your finger on the pulse of what we're trying to do here at Heritage Lake.
Yep.
You've been out here for years treating the lake. As an active member and the chairman for the Lake Committee, thank you for your efforts. Moving forward from this point, do you feel that the two species that you recommended, which are the red ear and the walleye, which one is best suited for an immediate impact on Heritage Lake? Is the shad more of an issue? Are the snails more of an issue? Which one do you feel, in your professional opinion, would benefit the lake? And also, how do you think our committee has done in the past leading up to this point compared to other lakes around Indiana?
Yeah. So the shad is one thing I didn't touch a whole lot on. And shad are something, and I probably should have, they're definitely something you want to watch, and I think that's what you're alluding to. A lot of lakes have issues with shad, and the biggest thing that we run into with the gizzard shad is they can cause really low recruitment in your largemouth bass. And so a lot of the lakes that we manage that have big shad problems actually have very low largemouth bass densities, and so the anglers see low catch rates, and we ultimately have to, all of their stocking, instead of trying to stock what I would call, fun fish to go catch for, red ear and walleye, they have to put all of their resources just into stocking largemouth bass every year. And that's because the gizzard shad can have, that big of an impact on largemouth bass spawning for a few different reasons. So that's why you guys are not in that situation. Your largemouth bass are actually, at a higher density than we would prefer. And like I showed you in that one histogram, you have a pretty big year class coming right now. And so that's why I scratched hybrid striped bass off the list. And a lot of times you're not going to put enough predators out there to get rid of the shad. They're still going to be out there. And so that's why I preferred the walleye, So as far as if we were going to just pick red ear or walleye, I guess it depends, what you're after. When I look at stocking, I want the angler, a lot of times I want to know what the anglers want to fish for. So if you guys have a lot of walleye fishermen, and just when we were only out here one evening and only ran into a few guys at the boat dock, but everyone coming out of the lake said, watch out for our walleye out there. So I figured that, the walleye were important to a group of people out here, and I think that they can do well. But the red ear, obviously, you know, you're gonna grow trophy red ear when you can get them in here.
Well, keep in mind that the angler scenario for our lake is secondary
Okay.
to the health of the fishery
Right,
first.
right.
So it's a byproduct
Right.
for what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. So if you're really if you're seeing issues, you know, the snails and that kind of thing causing issues, like I said, we don't have an abundance of that kind of thing, but the red ear are gonna play an ecological role in making an impact on that. The walleye are just, you know, they're just another predator, and they would be falling more of a category of being fun for the anglers to target. So if you had to pick one, I would say the red ear are gonna have a more positive impact on, you know, the ecology in the lake as far as reducing, you guys have zebra mussels as well, right? Yeah, so,
We do?
yeah.
We do?
That's,
Well, I think we do.
they're in our FileMaker system in bold that says that you do.
They're not as bad as others.
They may not be near as bad as, you would know if they were real bad. They'd be on your props, they'd be on your dock posts and that kind of thing. So if they're not at that level, you know, you're in okay shape, because they can cause a lot of issues. There's not a whole lot of evidence out there just yet about whether red ear have a huge impact on them or not, but if there's one fish out there that will, it is the red ear. And so if that's kind of the answer you're looking for, I would have to pick the red ear over the walleye.
I think where we were going in the past, as a committee, the lake committee, we always went with suggestions from professionals, people that we talked to, articles that we read and so forth, as to what we could do to help improve the
And that
lake.
makes a lot of sense on what you've already stopped. For sure.
We selected the stocking of the walleye to help us try to gain some control over the shad population. Okay, that was our goal there with
Right.
that. We find that we have some pretty good sized shad out here.
Oh, yeah.
And the average bass can't deal
Right.
with that. So we were hoping that the walleye was going to be
Right.
the direction to go. The red ear, we're blessed, you know, we thought that that was gonna be a solution for us as far as the mystery snail was concerned, and it appears that it's doing a nice
Right,
job.
right.
We realized that, I think we're told that it's like a 5 or 6 year cycle, and the maturity of that as they die off, so we see the larger snails out there floating. And I think they're just lost from age, but then the smaller snails that we see out there floating,
very
if you
good.
look at them, we see that the red ear is really doing a good job with that. And I think as a community, most everybody around has noticed that their pilings on their docks are cleaner. We as fishermen aren't dragging as many of them up off the bottom as we once did, and things such as that. So when we got together as a committee and tried to figure out what could we do to help improve this, we looked to, first of all, DNR,
Right.
which they backed off and said, look, we can't do anything for you, you're a private lake, so on and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
forth. But they gave us Nate's name.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we went back to Nate, which we have a relationship with because of the spraying of the lake, and he informed us that you guys were involved in this lake management situation, and we thought, well, what better solution to our, instead of guessing,
Yeah.
instead of throwing darts at this board, trying to figure out where this is gonna go. We hope
Yeah.
that you could bring in and then guide us on
Right,
through
right.
this solution, so.
Yep, and so back to your question as far as where you guys fall compared to other lakes, I would say you're definitely towards the top of the knowledge that you have and what you've already stocked. We see, and like I mentioned, your stockings seem a little sporadic, but compared to other lakes, they're throwing fathead minnows and just, you know, stuff that is, you know, what I would say nonsense. You're not gonna get a benefit out of a lot of these different species where, you know, other than the bluegill, the crappie even I can see, you know, if you have down year classes, you know, some very few lakes do need, you know, crappie supplemental stockings, but the hybrid striped bass, the red ear, and the walleye, you definitely hear that with the shad as well. So those all made sense to me right away. I will say with the shad, there's more evidence out there now than in the past that you're not gonna really get rid of those big shad. They're gonna be there, and so you just have to manage around them. the hybrid striped bass and the walleye eventually, later in their years are gonna get big enough to eat some of your bigger shad, but when you're catching 12, 13-inch shad, you basically need, a 10-pound bass or a muskie, and that's just, you're not gonna get rid of them. They're in the lake, they're gonna be here. And so you're basically just gonna manage with those. Now, and not so long ago, even the DNR and, a lot of our old reports, hybrid striped bass was always our standard go-to. And what the shad do provide, what they can take away with your bass recruitment, they do provide another food source where you can, as anglers, stock other predators that are, fun to catch. But, so yeah, I don't know if I answered both of your questions well enough, but.
Well, the red ear was
Mm-hmm.
that was a decision that, it wasn't a favorable decision when we made it, because
Right.
DNR said, let us know how it works out.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't have an answer for the snails either.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I think we made a good decision.
Yeah, I think so.
Question. Do you think we have any kind of aquatic weed issues that we ought to do more of checking boats coming in and off the lakes that might be
As
fishing
far as
other
invasives,
fisheries and
bringing in
things like that?
invasives.
If we got zebra mussels.
Yeah, that's how the zebra mussels get here, and that's how a lot of those spread. Anything you can do to, set up a check station or even put up signs. I don't think, to my knowledge, you have any invasive vegetation that we're treating. You don't have, Eurasian water milfoil is the one that we treat most places, and even curly leaf. Most of I think all of what we're treating out here is native, and so that means so far you've done a good job of keeping those out. But that kind of invasive weed, whether it's the Eurasian water milfoil, curly leaf, and some of the others, they are out. They're out there and probably not too far from this lake. Now, I imagine you guys don't have a huge portion of people, going to a bunch of different lakes like all the public reservoirs do, but anything you can do to, improve that is good. But right now, I don't think you even have any invasive vegetation out there right now, which is great.
Anyone else? With that, Wes, I want to thank you, and also my understanding, you're going to get Tom a copy of his presentation. Tom's going to put it on our website. It's going to be accessible to everybody through our website. It's not there yet. As soon as we get this over to him and he gets it on, where will it be?
Right now, the full report is at our website under Information, Documents, Clean Water Team. So if you go to those 3 folders, you'll find the full fish report. If you have any trouble finding it, you got my email. It's published on the web. Just email me and I'll be more than happy to help you. When I get the slides, they'll be in the same location.
Okay, for everyone. I mean, this is a great presentation. I appreciate your time.
Yep.
And thank you very much. This is very important to our fishery and our lake and where we're going. With that, next is Clear Creek Conservancy, Dwayne Kelly.
Dwayne Kelly, 282 Patriots Landing. Still just keep everybody keep in the back of your mind, we have got to seal the spillway this summer. We've kept hoping that we'd get some dry weather and the lake could drop 6 inches, 8 inches, and we could do it. If it doesn't, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if it doesn't, we may have to lower the lake towards the end of the season to get that spillway sealed, because we spent over $500,000 replacing that spillway, and we need to get it sealed. Also, I talked last week, or every week, about the things that says flushable, but they are flushable, they're not biodegradable. People were having problems. About 4 days after last month's meeting, I found out we had a lift station and a pump stopped. The guys got an alert, they went out. I don't think there's any place that I've seen, I'm not an expert on this item, but I don't think of any place that I've seen where it said women's underwear was biodegradable. There was a pair of women's underwear wrapped around the prop. You know, it's evident people don't have a trash can, they just flush everything down the stool that they think will go.
Sorry about
We
that.
really need, we really, you know, talk to your neighbors and, you know, like I say, diapers, those kinds of things, your hand wipes that say biodegradable or say flushable, they are flushable. They will go down the stool, but they will not biodegrade. So they wrap up into pumps and lift stations. That's my,
Hopefully, it'll get fewer and fewer, Dwayne. Thank you. Floyd Township Fire, Brian, I did not see Brian. Anybody here to report on the fire department? Neighborhood Watch, April Land, I did not see April either. HLCS, Rick Miller, I saw him.
I am here, Rick Miller, 26 Gettysburg. Just one really quick thing for you. I plan to print the August issue of the highlights so I can deliver by the 31st. And so July 24 is the deadline for articles or advertising. So please get them to me before then. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Rick. Helmack, Heather Ludlow, I did not see Heather. Anyone here? Oh, here we go. Thank you. What's your name? I'm sorry.
Matt Ludlow, Heather Westerhoff.
Well, you've got the mask on, Matt. I'm sorry. I didn't recognize
Sometimes it's
you.
an improvement.
Okay.
First off, I do want to thank all the first responders that were on the 4th of July for that tragic event that we had. Unfortunately, I had to witness it. I don't want to ever do that again. Anyways, on a better note, the fireworks, they seem to be a huge success. I believe everybody loved them. Social media blew up. Mortonville was very appreciative. And with that, we've set the fireworks for 2021 on July 3rd with a rain date of July 4th, and we told Mortonville to go ahead and put us in the books. Also, fireworks are mainly made up with donations, so we appreciate all of you for donating, and we do have a donation jar set up at the marina, and also on your annual dues, you can donate that way, so it makes up most of the firework budget. And then we have the poker run coming up on the 15th, we're pretty excited about that. You can register online or leave at the office. Also, there will be a cornhole tournament that day that Heritage Lake Boats is putting on. Let's see, we have koozies on sale at the marina. Money for that goes to our various events throughout the year. And our next meeting is August the 12th at 6 o'clock, right?
And we have sign-up papers for the
For the boat run?
for the boat
Oh,
run.
perfect.
Yep,
I figured there was another place to register, I guess.
yeah.
Also, is there a band the night of the poker run?
Yes, Cornfield Mafia will be here. I believe that starts at 7 o'clock. And there will be food available, carry out only because of the social distancing. And when we register, we're going to do our best. We'll be doing it downstairs this year, and we're going to do our best to limit the amount of people coming in at one time. So,
Very good.
should be a good night.
Thank you. Garden Club, Anita Johnson. Oh, I skipped one. Wait a minute. POA Security, Brian. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. And we've had 2 domestic disputes in the last month, 20 traffic stops, 2 admin calls, which is like vent checks, checking bikes and trailers, which we put a lot. 4 lockouts, only had 2 alarms, animal loose complaint, we've assisted a medical issue, 4 paper service, which could be a warrant, protective order, stuff like that. A weapons complaint, which turned out to be fireworks, so no alarm there. There was a traumatic injury where a child got hurt on a trampoline, 911 hang up. We worked 2 crashes and had 1 suspicious person call. And then the tragic news on July 4th when the juvenile passed away from drowning. So luckily we had some guys on the boats and a medic at Floyd Fire, so everyone got there pretty quick, but it still wasn't enough to save. Fortunately.
Thank you very much, Brian. Garden Club, Anita Johnson. I did not see Anita. Anybody here to report for the Garden Club? with this social distancing, everybody can't even get in. I keep hearing people knocking on the door. I apologize, we can't have any more people in this room, that just because of our rules, but as soon as that changes, we'll open it up again. Presentation of agenda. Any additions or corrections from the board on the agenda that was presented? If not, I'll take a motion to accept it the way that.
Motion accepted.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
President, okay. Presentation of the minutes from the June 8th board meeting. Any additions or corrections to those, the way they were presented? If not, I'll take a motion to accept them.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? June 29th operation meeting minutes. Any additions or corrections to those? If not, I'll take a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Treasurer's report, Mr. Jim Johnson, and I hope you have good news.
I've got some news.
You better have.
Our total income for the month was $194,863. Our expenses were $169,116, leaving an income balance of $25,747. Our year-to-date income is $991,625. Our total expenses are $670,409, leaving a net income balance of $321,000. Our short-term cash at the end of June was $597,916. Our investments made up of CDs, money market accounts were $475,000. That includes the loan that is secured of $130,000. Also, this is a little deviation from the normal treasurer's report, but we're going to say that our 2019 payments to Brand Construction for their work on our marina was $60,482. Our 2020 year-to-date is $700,918. We received $17,430 of donations from the generous people in our community for the marina. And the summary of our motorized boat fees in, let me get the percentages. Yeah. We are 37.3% higher on motorized boat fees than we were in 19. We have 1,116 motorized boats registered. In our plan for the marina, we expected 883. Our non-motorized boat fees are up 14%. Our marina slips are up 3%. Our tie-up fees are up 9.5%. Our campground equipment is up, permanent people who are renting is up 10.1%. I'm sticking to that story. Thank you.
All those percentages that are up are attributed because the fees were raised for the most part, is that correct?
Except for the motorized fees.
And we've sold,
Well, we did, we have registered, last year was 1,011.
1,038.
All right, so we're up,
less than 100.
yeah,
But we didn't decline.
we didn't decline as was predicted widely.
Correct.
What was the number again, Steve?
1,016 and 1,038 last year.
Yeah, so we're 100, when you look at 100.
1160.
That is,
11. That's right.
That's 32,000 additional revenue. Just in these additional boats, it's incredible.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Very good job. Thank you for the report. Board committee reports, A&E, Ben Fuchs.
Ben Fuchs, 77 Gettysburg. June, we have 19 permits for 20 projects. 9 houses, I will give the square footage of the houses from, I'll go from the smallest to the largest. 1,261, 1306, 1480, 1560, 1658, 1824, 2280, 2634, and 3418. We've got 38 house permits so far this year. We have 3 garages, 1 deck, 5 fences, 1 porch, and 1 pool.
Ben, I don't know if you'd be able to answer. I was wondering, just out of the 9 houses, are they in other words, are they contractors who are building them to sell them, or are they actual owners? Do you have any idea?
I don't think we really keep track of that.
Okay, thank you.
It appears that most of them are owners. And there could have been a spec home slid in there, but I think all the ones that I looked at had an owner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Campground, Mike Freiberger. Did I say that correctly, Mike?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mike Freiberger, 166 Patriots Landing. Gary Martin wanted me to just tell everybody that it was a great success down at the campground. Annette, party and band, all the fireworks, everybody had a great time. And so he just wants to say thank you for all the fireworks, and everybody was great.
Thank you, Mike. Government, Dick, I saw Dick. There.
Dick Werner, 183 Jefferson Valley. Government committee report. The Putnam County Courthouse is fully reopened as of Monday, June 22nd. All entrances are open, no health readings are currently being conducted. So back open for business. I revisited my complaint with the Highway Department to both the commissioners on June 15th and the council on June 16th. This was a result of a decision by Highway Superintendent Mike Ricketts and District Commissioner Dave Berry that my issue is not valid in their determination. However, they both acknowledged that my property had been ditched unnecessarily. There's been 2 reports and 2 appeals from the Highway Department for increased funding for ditching. So I put that back to the commissioners and to the county. Please review the process. Why is this being done unnecessarily? I know I'm not the only one on the list of angry property owners in the county who've had their ditches. And I would just caution you all to watch out for, how did I put it? If you notice utility marking and you did not request it for your property, that is likely a sign the county plans to do something to your easement. So call them, inquire. I saw their markings. I was headed off to vacation. I came home, my ditches were destroyed. And they are not going to do anything about it, but if you see the little white flags and you see all your utilities painted and you didn't request it, call and ask what's going on, what do you plan on doing to my property? So they don't want to do anything about it. So. PC EMS Director Kelly requested the commissioners to approve an ordinance officially recognizing Putnam County EMS as a new county entity covering Putnam County and to resume first right of refusal for county events that require EMS services. I thought it was important to mention that because it could impact. If we hold an event here that requires emergency services, it's going to be our own Putnam County. Operation Life, the previous entity that controlled the major EMS in the service in the county, had chosen not to cover those types of events in the past. So. And county officials approved interlocal agreements for both Cloverdale and Roachdale for covering inspections and permitting by county planning and zoning. We as a non-incorporated community also rely on the county for inspection and permitting. I was unable to attend the planning zoning meeting last Thursday, but Rick Miller has reported that the commercial zoning has been approved for the marina with the stipulation that no other commercial building may be erected on the marina parcel. And that's pretty much it. Next government committee meeting will be Thursday, July 24th at 10 a.m. here in the clubhouse.
Dick, I have one question.
Okay.
The highway department did some grading work on one of our roads, and I believe last month you commented they were gonna be doing chip and seal. Do you know where that's at? They graded one road and have not come back to do anything.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I live right off of that
Okay.
stretch. I will take it up with Mike at the meeting. Mike Ricketts is the highway superintendent.
Okay.
I'll be at the meeting Monday morning, and they do intend to do all the double chip and seal that has been marked on a map that I made available on our website that everybody can look at. And so if you notice, go on there and find that map of the lake and see that your road is up for repaving. This probably going to happen later in the summer when they get to the double chip and seal, which all of ours is. If you notice here on that map, pay attention to ditching crews coming through. That's all, I can't stress that enough.
Thank you much, Dick. Very nice report.
One correction on the report. The planning commission is sending a recommendation for zoning.
Oh, great.
It will go
That's
to
right.
it will go to the commissioners.
Right. Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Okay, I inadvertently skipped cleanup. Sarah, I didn't see Sarah, and I think that's why I skipped her. Anybody here to give a report on cleanup? That was my mistake. Lake committee.
Let me just jump in, just to remind everybody that the cleanup committee will be doing their shred event. I don't have the date recorded, but I'm sure it appeared in the highlights. It's an opportunity for you to get rid of unwanted tax returns that you don't need. You just bring them down, they'll be unloaded for you, and then you take off. For businesses, there's a $5 Goodwill donation.
Thank you, Tom. Lake committee, Kent Hoops. I know I saw Kent.
Yeah, I was stuck outside.
Apologize, we were at our number and
It's all right.
it's something we've got to go
I
with.
learned a lot out there.
I bet you did.
First of all, thank you for allowing Aquatic Control to come in. Obviously, it's close to the lake committees, close to our chest with how we work with them and the decisions that are made out here. So thank you for listening to the report. That report was not free. Obviously, it came with a co-sponsorship from the POA and the Lake Committee to get that done. And moving forward, we'd like to see that continue as recommended every 3 years with stocking annually. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. We think it's best for the health of the fishery and the health of Heritage Lake. So thank you for allowing them to come spend some time with you. I wanted to let you know that Robin Alexander, basically he and Leo Schubert restained the pirate ship and cleaned it out down at the marina. So that now has a fresh coat of varnish or sealing on it. So hopefully it
Looks brand new.
It looks wonderful.
It does look nice, yeah. And so I want to thank them for their efforts to do that. And please bring your kids down there because there's no more wasp nests in it and there's no snakes or anything. So and we also want to build on the Hillnack and the fireworks. What an outstanding 4th of July, a safe 4th of July, although we did have a tragedy later in the day. And my condolences go out to the family. Certainly not something you want to hear at Heritage Lake, but we did have our team of people there quickly and did all they could. So I think the weekend was enjoyable for most, although the family is suffering. So keep them in your thoughts. I know there's an ability to give some money to them on a social media page. So consider that when you're thinking about your own family enjoying Heritage Lake this summer. But we do want to build on that Hillnack firework routine, and we do want to let you know that a week from this coming Saturday, the 17th Feast and Ski and Fun event will be held here at Heritage Lake, right down here on the common property. We are taking extra precautions per the CDC guidelines for food distribution. Masks will be made available for those of you who want them. We'll have some masks there. We're spacing the tables out in the food line, so there's going to be 6 feet separating you as you go through the food line. The food handlers will have gloves on, masks on, and we're going to try to do our absolute best to make it a safe environment for everybody there. The event will start at 1 o'clock with food. It'll last until the ski show ends at 7:30ish, and then we are pleased to say that Mull It Over will be performing at 8 o'clock at night here at the common property in the shelter, and that band will be going until, I think it's 2 in the morning, right, Rick?
No. No.
Maybe 11-ish. So please come down, bring your family. If you have some concerns, let us know. We'll get the food to go, and we're even considering having a way to provide you with food around the lake. We don't have the volunteers set up yet, but certainly we want to benefit. It's our only fundraiser for the year for the Lake Committee. It's a large undertaking, and it certainly has made money to be put back in the community. Over 17 years, we've contributed over $60,000 back into the community based on that single day event annually. So I hope, and I hope the weather holds. I hope the COVID stays away, and I hope we have a great time and an enjoyable day for the members of Heritage Lake, because I think we deserve a little break. I think we need to get out and interact with everybody and have a little fun, and I think that's a good way to do it. I know there's a lot of activities this summer that have been postponed or delayed or canceled. You know, if we do, out of an abundance of caution, if things change in the next 2 weeks from the state of Indiana, then we will make other arrangements. But right now, we are foot on the gas, and we are full throttle for a great York Automotive Feast, Ski, and Fun event. York is our platinum sponsor this year, so please go pay them a visit at their Brazil, Crawfordsville, and Greencastle locations.
It's just that easy.
That was a pretty good commercial there, Ken.
Additionally, Robin's here. As you know, we've implemented a new program this year from the Lake Committee to assist with the budgeted item of fish stocking, which we hope will be an annual item. The fishermen who would provide the tournaments, usually 2 a week out here at the lake, are giving a percentage of their entry fee back to the lake so that you guys can benefit and they feel like they're contributing back to the larger cause of the health of the fishery moving forward at Heritage Lake. So thank you, Robin, for that. Any questions for?
What time's the skiing start at Christian Ski? About?
The silent auction will be announced, the ending of the silent auction will be announced at 5. Actually, it'll be online. Does everyone know about this? We're going to have.
Go ahead and tell them. I'm sure everyone does it. Go right ahead, please.
We've had some confusion about where to find information, so I wanted to talk to Tom Novak about that. Maybe we can parlay it onto the HLPOA website. The social media aspect is not reaching everybody. So we're getting conversations from sponsors saying, where can I see what you put together for us? We've got little 30-second commercials from all of our sponsors that are right now on social media, but some of them aren't associated with our family out here at Heritage Lake, so they're not able to see them. So we'd like to present it to Tom or someone where we can get it on our approved website and have all these sponsors listed with what they contribute here at Heritage Lake. So to answer your question, the end of that, the auction will be online. I think it's 10 days prior to the event, so you can see all the items. We have kayaks, we have boat storage for a year, we have TVs, water skis, tubes, wakeboards. There's a number of items that have been contributed. It's all by people and business owners that benefit from us being here as a community. The Bass Group is donating several, I think 2 baskets valued over $100 of fish lures. So those of you who don't know how to tie a hook and lose your lure all the time, perfect opportunity to have a little extra in your box. So we're going to have a lot of things, and I think I may have got it approved today, or you may have approved it today. We may be auctioning off a private no-wake buoy to be put in front of your house for a year. So those of you who live on the water, who are concerned about the proximity of boats getting to your dock, we're hoping to decorate it, make a big deal of it, have it as a revolving donation. so that we can kind of keep it going out there. I'd love to have 20 of them, but I think one right now to start with.
We don't have 20 right now, but,
So maybe if we have a good feast at ski, we can buy some more.
well, we'll work something out.
Yeah, so, yep, and then, so 1 o'clock is food, and then the casting contest, we have some things on the water, we have some pro wakeboarders coming, compliments of pro wake, water sports, and Mastercraft boats, so they're gonna be showing up, putting on a demonstration on the water. We're hoping with Mr. Helmer's assistance, we can have the idle zone put into effect around 2 p.m., somewhere there, so that we start to slow the traffic down here in the East Fork, so that our folks can put on a good display. We have a ski around with the kids at 1 o'clock. Typically, it's 10 kids behind one boat. We try to go around the whole lake, generate some activity and some awareness of our event. At 5 o'clock, we have the end of our casting contest at 3 or 2? 2 o'clock is the kids' casting contest, one of the most popular items at Heritage Lake Feast and Ski. In the past, we've been able to provide poles to all kids. Some of them may not want them, but it's a great time. We've got a water slide. Ben Fuchs has been kind enough to assist us with putting together a water slide again for the kids. We're going to have cars on display, boats on displays. We'll have, thanks to AJ Stafford, we're going to have a cotton candy machine for the kids. So all the people that benefit and contribute here at the lake are coming together, and I just hope it's an outstanding event. The ski show should end around 7:30ish, 5 to 7:30. So bring a chair. We set it up so that the guys are going to trim the trees up a little bit down here. There's going to be a nice canopy of shade down on the water. So come on down, bring a blanket. We figure you're already social distancing. Some of you have families that will come sit together. Please accept that we want you to kind of stay 6 feet apart, and we'll have signs up to indicate that. But I just can't wait. The only thing missing this year is the dunk tank for the board members, because I think that'd make a fortune.
That was our agreement. We would not do that if we got the buoy. With all that said, I want to thank you from the board and from the entire lake. It's proof right here tonight of the fish study we had, the direction that your lake committee has put us in great place we're at with our lake as far as the fish go, our habitat goes, and our lake goes. And our lake's number one, and your committee has done a great job leading us to that.
Well, it wouldn't happen without we certainly try, but we can't accept all the effort, because you guys certainly allow us to do some things that are sometimes outside the norm, and we appreciate your faith in us as a committee, so thank you.
Well, this board looks forward to working with your committee on the direction we go the rest of this year anyway.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that ski course out there to practice on?
Question.
I didn't hear it.
The slalom course was set up at the south end of the lake. It's out there. That's an approved item.
Yes.
It gets removed when security deems it inappropriate, so through the week.
Oh, we thought
Typically.
Right.
There are kids that are going out there and practicing on it, yes. It's kind of, it's all yellow buoys right now, as high visibility as we could get. But it is removable, and if Mr. Helmer says, hey, there's too much traffic, it can be taken down in an hour. So it's not something that's permanent. It's not something that's going to get in the way. The course sits below the water 5 feet. No boats draft 5 feet out here at Heritage Lake, so you're not going to hit anything or structural anything. And the byproduct of it is we might have some fish hanging on to it. A little bit of a structure in the lake. So, yeah.
Is there any place we can find that schedule? We've been getting calls.
Yeah, that's.
Want to know what the
We're
schedule
working on it. Yeah, it's
Okay.
out on some social media sites, but not the ones that need to be directed towards the large numbers in our community.
Okay.
Yeah,
matter of fact, I
if
have
we
a
get
sponsor
it, we
call
could
that.
put a collection on our website. We could put it in one area, one item, with all the links. We just need to receive the links.
I'll have that happen, yeah. I'll make a phone call.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Hey, Kent, thank you, and thank your committee from the board, please.
Absolutely.
All righty. Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
I don't want to cut you off. Clean water, Phil. I did not see Phil. Anybody here to give Phil's clean water? Long range planning, Deborah's not here. Siltation, I know Dwayne's here.
Dwayne Kelly, 282 Patriots Landing. I announced last month that we had the project at the north end of the lake to work in that area up there, which we've been working on for a few years now. We spent $40,000 up there removing silt at that end. At our last siltation meeting, we had some property owners that came to us and said that they had a number of people in their cove that had all decided to go together and have Shannon come in and clean out around their docks and lifts. The siltation committee's policy is not to remove anything within 10 foot of your dock or lift. We don't want to dig under somebody's dock, have it fall in, and we have to rebuild the dock. So if you want anything within 10 foot of your dock, you have to contact the contractor and have him do that. But anyway, the group came in, a number of people came in and talked to us, said that they'd gone together in the end of their cove. There were a number of them were all going to get Shannon to clean out around all their dock, boat lifts. Wanted to know if the siltation committee could do anything outside of that 10 foot in their cove. They came to us just at the right time because we did have a little bit of money left. So we're working on that. It's cove 15. A lot of silt comes into that cove, and I'm figuring any way outside the cove to stop it at this point in time. But anyway, that's that project. Our next meeting is the 23rd at 7 p.m. here at the clubhouse.
Thank you, Dwayne. HLEPT, Darcy, I did not see Darcy. Anybody here to report for Darcy? Election, Jim Muhlenbein, I did not see Jim. Anybody here for an election? Manager's report says Ken Roselle. Did he give that to anybody? Ken had a funeral home to go to tonight, a 94-year-old friend of their family for as long as Ken was alive. He had to go to that unexpectedly, so we'll have his report next month. Old Business Forum, really we're going to have a quick Marina report from Paul. Do you have?
Yeah.
Just short, because we're running behind.
Yeah, right now, the only thing really to report is the lighting issue that has been, the houses around the marina complained about the lighting, something we didn't have foresight about it. The lights were too bright, too white, they're not bright, and they're yellow. We switched them all out. It was a fairly sizable undertaking on our part, but we've got new lights on the marina. It's not over yet. We have some other lights to replace. That's about it.
I did have 2 reports from residents close to there, and they were very pleased with the lighting. So good job, thank you. Covenants vote, Jimmy.
We're finishing our push for the 75 remaining days, and our community majority still remained in the low to mid 70% of our community in favor.
I would encourage anyone to vote yes or no, either way. We need to get the votes in. What are we, 500 and some votes short of reaching our cutoff point, if you will. And
it's not insurmountable.
Yeah, but it's not, but it's kind of discouraging. We
need help.
We need help. We need
volunteers.
Anybody that knows anybody that needs an explanation. Jim would be happy to explain what the understanding is, how the vote goes, vote yes or no, rather than just not vote at all. It's presenting us a problem to find out if these changes are what the membership wants, number one, and we can't make any changes unless we get a certain number of votes in, and we're short. So anybody that has any question, Jim and his committee will be happy to meet with them or talk with them and explain what we're trying to do with the covenants change. Because Jim spoke with several people that say they don't understand it, and he's happy to explain it to anybody. Correct?
You betcha.
Okay, want to make sure. Thank you. Thanks, Paul and Jim. No new business, that comes to open forum. This is the time the membership can stand up and give their opinions, questions, whatever, to the board. Not that we have all the answers, because we don't. We're all just volunteers like everyone else. Do ask, I'll acknowledge once I see your hands raised, that when you stand up, give your name and your address, please. So with that, we'll open up for questions, if there are any.
216 Lincoln Hills, Carrie Bolin. I just want to clarify a couple of questions in the May highlights. Specifically, page 11, question number 14, how many seats will the restaurant have? The answer was approximately 80, maybe seated inside the building. At the zoning meeting, there was a different number brought up, so I'm looking for clarification.
What was the number brought up in the zoning?
68-ish.
That's how many seats are gonna be inside.
Okay, what's the total occupancy?
The occupancy permit inside is 85.
And that
It is posted.
includes the marina and the restaurant, and does that include the outdoor seating?
No, it does not include the outdoor seating.
But it includes the marina and the restaurant?
It includes the restaurant.
Just the restaurant?
Yes.
What's the occupancy on the marina?
I don't think there is any.
Okay, just looking for clarification, since there's different numbers going around. Page
You-
11,
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Do you understand the difference between the two numbers you have?
yes, I do now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But the way it came up in the May highlights, and then in the zoning board meeting, caused some confusion. That's why I was looking for clarity. Page 11, question 11, it was stated that sales from community-sponsored charitable events, SOMs and the POA would each retain a lesser amount of revenue to help the charities meet their needs. To clarify, as an example, the chili cook-off, which raises money for the community. In the future, would that be money that would be shared with the restaurant?
Let me answer that. SOMS, we do not have any agreement with them today. None. He has shown an interest that he wants to be a partner with us at that location. Until we get zoning for that building, we are not going to be in discussion with SOM in regards to a contract.
Okay, so you're waiting for it to go through all
That and COVID and everything else. So there's no answer. I can't give you an answer.
Okay, and that's okay.
Okay,
That's what
well,
I'm
thank
looking
you.
for. Do you know yet how much more the insurance is going to cost?
What more insurance cost on what, Carrie? I'm not
May
following.
highlights page 13, where it's discussed overreaching liability insurance.
How much more it's gonna cost a
Right.
year, per month, what? For what? For the building? For
No.
the marina building, or what insurance?
Let me help you with that. The question to which she's referring has to do with if there is an agreement with SOM, and if there is alcohol involved, we then would need to have overarching, but we're not at that point.
I got it, I understand now. Thank you for the clarification. We don't have that answer tonight.
Okay.
We don't have a liquor permit even requested. We don't have a contract with a restaurateur. I can't give you that answer. We're not at that point yet, Carrie, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, and that's completely fine. That's why I'm looking for clarification.
Okay, that's fine.
because
What else?
things are steamrolling around, steamrolling, it seems
Is
straight
what?
ahead. Things seem to be moving forward, so I'm looking to see if we've got answers to these
Okay.
questions.
As far as I'm concerned, they're not moving forward. The COVID, the zoning, and all those type of things, we're not moving forward as fast as we should be.
Oh, well, I didn't say it was going fast per se.
No,
but it
as
is.
fast as it should be. Go ahead.
Okay, nope, that is all. You were able to clarify what I thought.
Thank you.
Toby Webb, 416 Jefferson Valley.
I'm sorry, it was Toby? I just didn't hear you, I apologize.
Yes, Toby Webb.
I got that, thank you.
I sold my house last Tuesday. There was my realtor called me the next day asking me about if I knew about a lump sum to cover the marina that would be responsible for the new homeowner to buy when they bought, they were responsible for that lump sum fee. My question is, what is that lump sum fee? What's the dollar amount, and what would that be? When would that be voted on, or when would that be communicated?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
It's been, so we've had two different realtors confirm that.
Who are they?
Yes.
I'm not saying that.
It's not me.
Well, they're,
I mean, if you want us to pursue it, if you give us our names, we'll find it. None of us have heard anything about lump
There's
sum,
been no
correct?
communication of that at all.
There's been
None.
no discussion of it.
So when I close on August 7th, there's not going to be.
absolutely not.
Not a fee from Heritage Lake.
There might be from a realtor, but not from this board that we know of.
For anybody.
No.
The only way we're paying for this is
We've
we
already,
increase the vote fees.
everybody knows how the
and
financing's working.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
I'm sorry, Toby.
Bad
I'm sorry I didn't have an answer for you. Next.
Hi, I'm Jim Smeltzer, 9 Gettysburg. And I'm here to voice a concern about, I guess, voting safety, and I want to make very clear that this is not a complaint about security. I very much understand that we have, security can't be everywhere on the lake, and we have limited budget, and, we can't afford to have, 50 security officers out there. So I just want to make very clear that this is not a complaint about the security in any way. I live at 9 Gettysburg, and so I have the good fortune of having a beautiful view of the main body of water and the entrance to Gettysburg, what I call Gettysburg Cove, I don't know what code number it is. This is our 7th summer on the lake, and I've seen more dangerous boating activity this year than I've seen, it feels like, in the last 6 years combined. This year alone, I've seen 3 boats pulling tubers halfway back into our cove. I see boats going the wrong way on the lake. I see boats that are not off the throttle until they're well inside the idle buoys. Jet skis that are not getting off the throttle. And then even the people that slow down once they get there but are clearly not idling. And my concern is somebody's going to get hurt. I mean, kids swim in our cove. And so I'm just asking, I guess, I have a suggestion. I'd like to suggest that maybe an additional buoy be placed in the mouth of the cove, because I think people, especially the newer people that aren't familiar with the lake, just they don't see them for some reason. And then I'd also ask just for suggestions about what we can do and how we can help to solve the problem. Again, I'm willing to be part of the solution. I'm willing to pay for the buoy. Actually, the buoy you're talking about that you've got, I got the perfect spot for it, right in the mouth of that cove. But I would be willing to personally pay for an additional buoy if that would help. Because again, I think they're just spaced too far apart, and people have a tendency to cut the corner there. And we had 2 weekends ago, we had a guy come through pulling tubers, and he wasn't 25 feet off the end of my dock, and he was going full speed. And so I'm just asking, trying to raise awareness of the issue and ask, offer to be part of the solution and ask what else we can do. And I'd look to the board for suggestions on how we can help, because we had one tragedy here this last weekend. I just would hate to see another one happen.
And so would we, same way. Thank you very much, and I've got it noted.
Jim, that's Cove 16?
I don't know the code number. We're getting, I don't know.
I think it's 15. That's where they're.
It's 15.
That's where the
15?
facility's going on. It's 15.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're the largest. I think it's the largest cove that's an idle zone. I mean, it's straight across from the marina, straight across the main body of water.
You're on the one to Fort Getty's on?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
You're on the one to Fort Getty's on?
Fort Getty, yeah.
That's 15.
Yeah.
I got it.
Got it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Just a comment, one thing we asked in our last board meeting, if people have suggestions, that they could email those suggestions to hlpoa@ccrtc.com. Heritage Lake, HL, POA, at CCRTC. You could mail your suggestions, and that way they'll at least be available to us to review.
And Jim, I don't know if you were here last month or not.
I was not.
I think we brought the same issue that your concerns are up last month. We as a board are looking at it and have been. We should have been looking at it before last month, to be honest with you, but it has become apparent to more people than just you. I appreciate you coming in and letting us know about it. On your concern, we are aware of it, and we're going to take the suggestions that you have, and these other people, from anybody out there, will take and look at all suggestions. Nothing's out of the ballpark for us. We're all in the same position you are. We're concerned. We don't want to have another accident out here either.
I appreciate that.
So, sincerely. Anyone else? One more.
Ken Hoops again, 150 Gettysburg. To respond to you, the Lake Committee annually reviews the rules. Some of the things we're working on currently that might assist you to know that we're actively involved with this in the board is an online test related to the rules prior to registering your boat. In the past, when you register your boat, you complain that you've read the rule book. Obviously, with some of the infractions you're seeing, that didn't happen. Another thing that compounds that is the National Marine Manufacturers Association has indicated that this year, COVID has spiked sales for recreational items, whether it be four-wheelers or, boats, campers, to the point the banks are now increasing interest rates on those items. But that being said, there is no license, there is no training. You can walk in and buy a boat, and I think that's what this lake is starting to see this summer, is that we're seeing people that have never been in a boat before are now purchasing a boat, not understanding that it doesn't have park and reverse and be able to stop quickly, maneuver quickly, nor have they ever pulled anybody. And to your point, last weekend I was home, I saw some things happening. It was actually July 4th weekend. I saw some things happening that were concerning to me. I slowed the boat down, stopped the boat, stood up, shut the engine off so they could hear me, and I just said, hey, I just want to let you know that the sun's going to be setting right here in about 45 minutes, and you're swimming on this side of the buoy. I said, I can't see you. So I would encourage you, I'm not trying to ruin your weekend or ruin your day. I just encourage you to get on the other side of the buoy, stay 25 feet on that side of it, so that I don't have to worry about seeing you, and you don't have to worry about me not seeing you. So I think a little bit of how you present yourself to these folks, it's just like the underage jet skiers. I saw some underage jet skiers, they're family friends of mine. I called them up, I said, hey, come on, you know the rules. Let's just not put a 12-year-old out on a jet ski on a weekend. It doesn't work. If you're gonna break it, call security and say, hey, I'm gonna teach my son how to drive a jet ski. We're gonna be in front of my house at this time today. I just want him to understand safety in case something happens. If I fall off and he's by himself, there's ways to get it done to educate, and that's part of our problem from the Lake Committee standpoint, is educating the POA members to keep this place as safe as we can possibly make it. So we're working on it.
Thank you.
And we are looking at having everyone take this test prior to next spring. It's not, we haven't got far along on it yet, but we're trying to get it out early so everybody this winter could have all winter to take it, and we won't have a big rush to finish it, but that's our goal.
Hi, Kristen McClellan, 159 Mill Springs.
Welcome.
Thank you. My husband and I have lived in the cove where the incident occurred for 16 years. And one thing on the day of, as we talk about safety and security, I was certified when my oldest was born, and CPR has changed. And so we relied on nurses and doctors to come over as fast as they could to give proper CPR, because we all thought you still had to breathe. So one of my recommendations was safety, whether you're swimming, whether it's in your cove. Like our cove is hiring someone to come out with the dummies and to teach us for infant CPR and adult CPR, because it's changed so much since Safe Sitter, since we all had kids. I was hoping the fire department would be here, because that would be, I think, a huge fundraiser. It's $15 a person to get certified, at least the person that's coming to our cove is. Also, we've had a discussion about AED because we were able to witness how amazing an AED machine can be, and there are different types you can have in your home, so we'll have one in our cove with a number of kids. But as we worry about safety, especially with boating and swimming, I think that that would be a good fundraiser, it would be a good event. Because again, none of us could help, but we had to rely on the others too.
Thank you much for your ideas and thoughts on that, Kristen. And I've got a note on that too. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Shit, I lost my train of thought. Never mind, I forgot.
Okay, all right.
That ain't stinking fun.
Anyone else? With that, no hands up.
Motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Anybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening, and hopefully we'll get past this and let more members come in. We don't have this problem very often where we have people outside, and I apologize profusely. Thank you, everyone.
No, you're fine, you're fine.
I know it is. I remembered what it was.